Oscar goes to... And the Oscar goes to...
The Oscar goes to...
And the Oscar goes to... And the Oscar goes to...
Welcome back to the Not That Oscar podcast version. If you're new here, this is basically like my TikTok, except from about 20 times longer. So if you're excited by that concept, we have a lot to go through today. Today's episode is solely on Avatar 3. It was the big release of the weekend. If you've not got around to it, so I come back another day because there will be spoilers, okay? We are breaking it down in full detail. Today we're going to be going through the best and worst moments, the character breakdown. Where does it go from here? Box office success? Is it currently doing well? Will it do well? What do I think? We're going to rank the Avatar films. If you want to see my ranking of Big Jim films, then you can check that out on my TikTok, which I'm actually going to put an image of up on the screen in case you're watching. If you're listening, it's at Not That Oscar on TikTok. But last time I forgot to edit the photo in, but this time it's there. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So there's nothing else we can do, really. We've done the pleasantries. I hope you're all well. Merry Christmas, by the way. Let's jump into it. So Friday morning, 10:30, I went to go see Avatar in 3D. The first 3D film I've seen in about, I'm going to say at least 10 years, at least. And I saw it at 10:30 to a pretty full cinema. Now, I know it's Christmas and people are off, but I was surprised at how busy it was. So that was good. And I loved it. And my initial rating was a 4 out of 5. Okay, I thought this was good fun. There were some elements that annoyed me, which of course we're going to deep dive. But it was good enough that I returned just 4 hours after I'd finished for a second watch, but this time with my family. And I'll talk about their thoughts as well. So for me, it's incredibly strong. It looks beautiful. The soundtrack is great. Some of my biggest issues off the bat are I wanted it to be a bit more committed because we're going to talk good for a long time. There's a lot of good. So we might as well get the bad stuff out of the way. I do think a more main character should have died. We, of course, very sadly lost the lives of Anung didn't die. It's his brother, Roxo. He did sadly pass away to a death that wasn't really appreciated or I didn't feel the impact of it. Same with Renal, that's Kate Winslet's character. Not long after she pushed out a baby, did she pass away. That's actually a funny quote I've got to remember for later. Then push! Good old Neytiri with the assist there. But look, it's a fantastic film, and people that are saying it's got no culture, it's got no cultural impact, it's not. You are genuinely wrong because these movies make $2 billion. So statistically, you are in a heavy minority. I think it's the best of the franchise. We'll talk about that later on. That's a little bit that you've got to stick around now. But we might as well jump into the characters because I think that will help us break down the story as well. So we're going to go character by character, all the main ones, and then some general clan opinions of, the clans in Avatar, not anything else. So let's kickstart with Quaritch, who happens to be a comedian in this film. It's really quite a nice change. Stephen Lang is heavily underappreciated for his performances and his character as Quaritch. So in the first film, he was very much like, hoo-ah, Pandora, military man. And then you see him evolve. Obviously, he dies in the first film, spoiler, and then gets brought back as an avatar, a recombatant, I think they call it, because it's not him transferring into an avatar, it's his memories. So it's ever so slightly different. But what keeps me intrigued about this character is specifically in this third one, I think he's written perfectly. Definitely my favorite written character. The emotional change that he goes through, very similar to One Battle After Another with Sean Penn's character than that with Lockjaw, is that his hatred for this species, this native species, or hatred for a race that isn't his own, seems unnatural considering the love that he forms for one of them. So the Ash clan are, in real life, they are very similar to native Indians. That is the sort of perspective we're trying to get here, right? People that live an extremely different way of life, and Western life doesn't know how to respond to that and sees what they do as barbaric. And yes, in this scenario in Avatar 3, some of the stuff they do is crazy, and we'll get onto that. But they are simply just worshipping Varang, which is the leader. And I think Stephen Lang's character Quaritch appreciates that, because there is a line that he says, a very good line, where he goes, "You've been looking for an equal." And that's how he knows, because Varang is very similar to Quaritch. They are each in their own, but the amount of similarities is incredible. And his character exploits that perfectly. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the future, And we'll talk about the future, of course. But yeah, Quaritch, absolutely fantastic. A comedian in this one, which I thought was really interesting. He dropped some great lines, like, "Ow, that's not cool." That made me chuckle when he got his chest sliced. He also did, "If you hadn't have shot me," as he was pulling Spider up off the rock. He's also very self-aware in this, which I think is great. You get the line where him and Jake are sat after their fight and just bringing Spider back up onto the floating rock. And he's like, "Well, this is awkward." He's a character this time round that has said everything that the audience is thinking. He is a voice for the audience, which is great, because I think we've needed that. In the last two films, it's very much been, we are the outsider viewing this alternate world, this spectacle. But Quaritch is really engaging the audience, which I think is a really neat touch. And yeah, like, it makes sense that he's funny, because he's settled on the planet now. He's been there for, I'm trying to think what the time frame is, about 10 years. So it's a really, it's a well-written part. As a character in general, the development, interesting. It's a Quaritch movie. The first one was Jake, ultimately. The second one was more Neytiri as well, and the whole family. But this one is kind of like Quaritch, Spider, and Kiri, I would say, the main three. Neytiri's path is of course very important, and how she deals with grief, which we'll get into in two characters' time. But yeah, absolutely love Quaritch. I'm a huge fan of what Stephen Lang is doing. And just to get it out there straight away, I think mocap performances should have a category at the Oscars. If the Academy is going to be too stubborn to put them in with the likes of Best Actor for normal acting, which it is, it's in some scenarios harder to do mocap than it is your standard on-screen acting. But at least do mocap and voice acting as one, because the performances from pretty much everybody is phenomenal. Shout out to Stephen Lang, Una Chaplin, who plays Varang, and then of course Zoe Saldana, who time and time again is incredible. But let's jump into Jake. And of course, as we go along, if you want to drop any of your thoughts down in the comment section below, you can. This is available on Spotify, and there's a comment section on Spotify. So drop them there, give the show a rating, 5-star if you can. And then of course, if you're watching on YouTube, drop them in the comments. I'll be replying to everybody, so please do join in. If you've got a thought about a character or anything that I say, let me know. So Jake, interesting one. He look, what's so good about the start of the film is it jumps right in. If you're not up to date with Avatar, I can see how that might be slightly off-putting. I liked how quickly we got in. It gave us a very quick recap that Neteyam had died, and how the main three of the family, being Jake, Neytiri, and Loak, all deal with grief and loss of a family member. Jake's is interesting because him and Quaritch, who two characters I will talk about in a sec, they're both military men, and they deal with things in a very, very similar way. And Jake, as an individual character, isn't overly exciting in this one. I don't feel like there's much character development, which is fine, because, look, we've already had nearly 6 hours of character development pretty much solely focused around Jake. But what's so important about his character in this one is his partnership with Quaritch. And there's a moment at the end of the film, we'll go right to the end just for now, where Jake is willing to save his life. He says to him, "You have a big choice to make now. You've been here for years. You can still see the world for it is. I see you, and you can change. We're willing to. Well, he's willing to sort of let him, which is crazy considering the amount of people he's killed. But I like that Jake still has that emotional element, Marine to Marine. Look, I can forgive you, or we can, I won't forget, but we can forgive, move on. I can help you understand and love this planet for what it is. And there's another moment where Jake and the water clan, the Metakaina, I think they are, standing off against the Ash clan, and who have a real name, by the way. I just haven't written it down. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. And some of the military guys. And Jake says, look, I need a Marine's promise. We, at the core, are the same people. Do you promise me? And Quaritch is like, you want a pinky? Which is another great line. So it's nice to see that they still have that interaction with each other, where they respect each other, because Quaritch used to be his general, his colonel, and it's a really neatly done how that's evolved in this film. What do you think? Again, let me know. Yeah, Jake's development is thin, but as a duo with plenty of other characters, including Quaritch, fantastic. And Jake is a part of one of my favourite scenes in the movie, and we'll get to Spider a little bit later on, but I'll tease it. It's that scene in the forest where he's contemplating taking Spider's life. And I think the facial sort of acting that goes on from Sam Worthington is sensational. I didn't cry in this film. I cried in Way of Water. I didn't cry in this one, but I was very close during that scene. I think it was really powerfully done, very well acted. We'll talk about it because I think Spider is a huge part of this film. We'll get to him slowly. But let's jump to Neytiri, because Jake will pop up mainly with a lot of the other characters as well. But Neytiri is fantastic. I mean, she says it. She's been taken away from everything that she has. Her family, her home. She's lost a child. And all that she has left is her faith. And Jake momentarily tries to take that from her and says, look, I need you to sort of pull it together. We've got a family to protect here. Jake treats his family like the military, and it's all, yes, sir, you've proven yourself to me. You must do this. You don't listen. Where are the comms? Whereas Neytiri is a lot more in touch, obviously, as a native of the planet, a native Na'vi. She's a lot more in touch with that Awa side, her faith, and that God has a plan, even if it doesn't feel right in the moment. You have to stick with it. And she says to Kiri, Awa has a plan for you. And we can't see it now, but you just have to trust it. And she sort of says that Neteyam's loss of life is what her faith has set out for her. As horrible as it is for her to lose a son, she understands she can connect with him still through the tree of life, which is a really cool feature I think they do. But yeah, very, very faith heavy for Neytiri. And she actually has one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, where she attacks the military base, to go try and rescue Jake. And that fight flying sequence is brilliant. I mean, really, really good. There's lots of scenes that stand out for me that we'll talk about once we've kind of gone through all the characters and got them sort of settled. But yeah, that fight sequence where she's flying around on her the Ikran on the Banshee, and it like tucks up and flies through that really narrow corridor, and Una Chaplin's character Varang cannot follow. I think that's really neatly shot. I was a big fan of that. But Neytiri, again, a character that sort of will intertwine with the likes of Spider. We'll talk heavily about her then. But a really, again, fierce performance and a standout. I think Zoe Saldana, at some point, if she doesn't get an Oscar in the next year, or for Avatar 4 or 5, which again we'll talk about, I think the Academy need to give her a retrospective. I'm sorry we didn't, appreciate you. I think she got nominated. Did she get nominated for Avatar 1? I can't remember. But let's jump to Loak, who's really really interesting in this film because I expected him to be the centerpiece. It made sense. He was doing the narration, and I thought he was going to be narrating his dad's death because in the first two films, it's narrated from Jake's point of view, how he sees the planets as a human and through the eyes of an RV. And with Loak sort of taking the audio lead, I was like, Jake's dying. Jake is going to have to die. And I'll say it now. I do think they should have killed Jake. As much as it would have pained me and I probably would have sobbed, I think we should have lost a bigger character. No offense to Renal and Roxo. How do you pronounce that, by the way? Rotxo. But Renal's kind of felt dismissed. Her death. I think Jake should have died, and a good point for him to die would have been him saving Stephen Lang's character Quaritch and Spider on the rock, and then Jake falling to his death. Or they both die, and Spider lives. I think that would have been a neat way to do it. It's interesting they've kept him alive, but we'll talk about the arc of the three movies later on. So yeah, with Loak, I thought he was going to narrate his dad's death and be like, right, I'm stepping up now. I'm here to protect the family. Protect your sisters. Sully, stick together. No, the other one. Sully's never quit. Sully's never quit. There's some great lines in this film, honestly. There's a lot of individual sentences I'm going to be stealing for my own. But look, yeah, Loak, I'm surprised by how little he was actually involved in this movie. And he's not developed at all. He's the exact same from Way of Water. And I saw a lot of people being like, oh, Way of Water is just 2.0. Fire and Ash is just 2.0 of Way of Water. 2.5 even. Jesus. And while I think that's entirely wrong, I think Loak is a 2.5 character. He's still the same irresponsible idiot. He doesn't carry his comms with him. He's always leaving his post when his dad goes, do not go anywhere. And yeah, off he goes. It's very, very frustrating. And I get that's his character, right? He's still young and foolish. But then obviously he does do that massive thing where he goes and finds Payakan and he convinces the Tolkien and the elders to fight with them. We'll talk about the Tolkien later because I think they're really interesting character, and it's really nice to have a non-human, non-avatar, non-Na'vi character that is so important to the storyline, and they might be like top 3 character in the franchise for me. But yeah, Loak, frustrating lack of development, and for not just from like a viewer's point of view, but as him as a person, I wanted more. I wanted more. Anyway, that's kind of all I have to say on him because nothing's changed, which was I did find that a little bit frustrating. It definitely reduced my overall scoring. But there's a lot of characters in these movies, and that's why they have to be 3+ hours because there's so much story to tell. Remember, if you don't know this, Way of Water and Fire and Ash were one movie originally. It was one film. So it's kind of like you can see where there's elements that were clearly part of Way of Water and then got pushed into Fire and Ash, and then elements that have just been cut or chopped and changed too much. And I think Loak has suffered there. Kiri, we'll go for Kiri next. I mean, look, Sigourney Weaver is sensational. What she's doing as Kiri is great. Kiri is a character, again, a bit 2.5y. I'm not overly convinced she grew loads. She did tap into Mother Nature a little bit more and to Awa. And her and Spider, finally they kissed. It was always like, will they, won't they? And it was kind of, I was like, they probably never will. Or Kiri's asexual. And I predicted that her character would do like a Loki moment and that the planet would get destroyed in some way, or Awa would get killed, even though it's spiritual kind of. I don't know how that would work. And then Kiri would sort of like intertwine and hold everything together. If you've seen the Loki TV show, spoilers, but like how he holds together the timelines. I thought she was going to do something like that. But no, she does tap into her more aggressive side. And what's really funny about Kiri and Awa, and then also the Tolkien, is they're all like, look, we don't want war. We don't want battle. We don't want to fight each other. And yet seem to be the most aggressive people of all kind when it comes to it. It's really neat. Some of my favorite scenes from her. Look, when she had her little tentacle, I can't remember the name of the end of their tail, sticking up, she was looking down at Varang. Really cool scene. It reminded me of, if you've seen Predator Badlands this year, Deck, who's the predator in that, and Squirt, which is the little like wormy creature that kind of like fires, like, I think it's acid he fires at people, but he sits on his shoulder and helps Deck fight people. And that reminded me of that. And I thought that was really neat. Look, James Cameron probably came up with that way before Predator Badlands ever existed, but a nice little comparison. There's so many comparisons. Like, there's a lot of Mad Max. There's a lot of Titanic, obviously. And I think that's really neat. I like those crossovers. But Kiri, again, as a character, a bit 2.5e. Her kissing Spider was nice, because I think that'll be a great story development in the 4th film, which is apparently about an 8-year time jump. So Kiri's going to have grown a lot. It's partially being filmed while the kids are a bit younger. Spider would have grown a lot, because Spider, who is the next character I want to talk about, but I guess intertwines with Kiri a lot. I think what Jack Champion, the actor, is doing so well is he's the only human character within the Na'vi all the time. Yes, we have the Doctors, who had some great moments, but I think I think that's hard to not be in mocap, and sort of, you're a lot more vulnerable because he is like half naked the entire time. But I think he's doing a great job, and their characters together needed each other. They bounced off each other a lot. They bonded. They grew. I wanted more time, just the two of them. There were moments on the ship with the Air Clan, with the not travelers. They are like salesmen. What is? You know what I mean? I cannot remember the word. Traders. Thank you. Where they sort of fight two people, and Spider uses his arrows to kill one of the Ash people. That's great, but I wanted to see more of just those two together. And you get a moment on the rock, which is really sweet, where Kiri is contemplating, like, I can't connect with Awa again because it could kill me, and then proceeds to connect with Awa like 5 times and doesn't die, right? But I think that's a really sweet moment where they're like tickling each other, and you can tell they're deeply in love, and it's nice that Kiri made the move on Spider, I think. Who's Spider as a character, sensational. I mean, I'm a big fan of him. He's a bit... I mean, look, he's a human that's grown up in a planet that's not his. And it's very much like, these buttholes. Oh, you butthole. Butthole. He kind of says that a lot. That's pretty much like 90% of his lines, which is amusing. He's quite immature in that way. But then, counterpoint, maybe the most mature character in his biggest scene, where Jake takes him to the forest to kill him, and while he starts to plead originally, and he calls him dad, and oh my god, that was one of the sweetest moments. I nearly cried. And he's like, I understand. I need to go now. I need to be with Awa. Like, he's very in touch with the faith and the way of life on Pandora, and I think that's great. Pandora. And I think that's really strong of that sort of character to do, still being a human, and Neytiri neglecting him for 2.5 movies, and Jake sort of bouncing back and forth between like, right, well, I hate your son, take him back, like, to Quaritch, to I will do everything in my power to protect this boy. And Spider goes, I understand, I need to go now, but, and then he looks up at it and he goes, do you still love me? And then Jake says, with all my heart, or every bit of me. And I'm like, oh god, oh, James Cameron, you're trying to shred me to pieces. It was such an incredible scene. And that scene as a whole, I want to talk about. Should we just get into some of the scenes now? We might as well. I think what is so fantastic, and that actually, right, I'm going to say it. It's my favorite scene of the entire 3 films, right? When they arrive, and he's like, Spider's being Spider, and he's like, oh, I need a piss. I'm like, well, we get it, mate, all right? You need a wee. And he gets taken into the woods with Jake. And Jake's like, look, he sort of finally sides with Neytiri and goes, I understand that the planet cannot be safe if humans can learn to breathe air like Spider has, which was a really interesting plot point to do, but I liked it. And he's like, the only way to protect everybody here is to kill him. And while I initially disagreed, I could kind of see what they were getting at. It was a horrid thing to do, obviously, but I did understand it. Now, that moment where they're in the woods, and I've sort of spoken about it, where Spider is pleading with Jake is tough to watch, but amazing at the same time. But another really strong moment of that is Neytiri down at the river, and she had put on the face paint and the mask and everything to blend in at the base, at the military base, and it worked. You see that she's dressed up as one of these Ash people, Ash clan. She blends in very well. And they speak the whole way through, specifically in Way of Water, but also in this one. Loak mentions it when he goes looking for Biocan, that the water cleanses you. That the way of water is that it cleans your body and soul. And as Neytiri is washing off that paint from her body, visually she becomes herself again, but she washes off that poison. And she realizes this isn't who she is. She has become like her enemy. We don't just kill to make things better in the moment. We kill when is necessary. And she washes herself clean with the water. And she realizes this is wrong. And she runs into the woods. And you're like, oh, it's going to be too late. And I thought originally in the moment, I was like, she's going to stop him because it's like, that's obviously what's going to happen. And then Jake makes that motion where he stabs Spider into the neck, and you hear the sound. So cruel of James Cameron to put that stabbing sound in there because it's so realistic to it happening. And then you pan down and they're hugging and Neytiri arrives, and it's just like the weight off your shoulders. And she sees him, and they are a family. And it's so lovely that Spider has been accepted into this family, because with him and Quaritch, he manipulates Quaritch endlessly, saying like, oh, you're my dad. I love you, Dad. I'll come back with you. And then, but actually says it himself, the Sully family is the only family he's ever truly had, and he wants to be with them. And he was willing to die for their benefit. And I think that shows what a strong character Spider is. Let's move on. Took. Not much of a character, really. I mean, she's sort of like an element to the Sully family. Doesn't really get her own moments. I think she will a lot in 4 and 5. I think she'll come into her own. We'll probably see her kill her first person. But super sweet. I mean, really cute. She's very much similar to Way of Water, where she's like, I can't believe I'm tied up again, or I can't believe I've been captured again. So cute. In this one, she's like, you can't leave me alone again, when like they're all jumping into the water and she's left on her own on the rock. Oh, adorable little girl. Let's move on to Varang. So the new villain of the storyline. Really interesting, because I thought there has to be more Varang. There has to be a Varang cut of this film where there's more of her, because she's sensational. I mean, Una Chaplin puts in an incredible performance. Granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin. I did not know that until very recently. Kind of makes sense considering the name, but you know, there's plenty of names in the world. And I think Varang was fantastic, and the way the character works, very psychosexual. I think it's very impactful, because I think the Na'vi mate when they connect their like tails together, but she also uses that method to sort of control people and to like warp their mind, and I think that's really interesting. A really, really powerful way, disturbing way to have a character interact with others like that. And the scene with her in the tent with Quaritch is really strong as well, where she's like, she loves the fact that there's an equal to her. That is what she gets off on, that idea. And look, her and Quaritch have probably had a kid. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes into effect for 4 and 5. Those two are madly in love with each other, and I've made the comparison to Lockjaw in one battle after another. But there has to be more Varang. I want there to be more Varang. She isn't dead. She kind of just disappeared. I'm trying to remember. So yes, of course, Kiri did the shoulder thing and was like, go away. And it's interesting that she not gave up, but that was what pushed her to disappear. And then we never see where she goes from there. And my worry is with Avatar 4, which is being greenlit, by the way, for 21st of December, 2029. So just 4 years away. Just 4 years. How there's going to be an 8-year time jump and that character returns, I don't know. But we don't need to think about that right now. We just have her in Fire and Ash. I'm trying to think of some other standout scenes. Her and Quaritch together, when they're walking through the military base. She, first of all, absolute baddie. She is so hot. But she immediately, for someone that doesn't really know the sky people very well, the humans, as soon as the cameras start flashing at her, she is living it up. She's walking with Quaritch. She's smiling. She's like, yes, even these people worship me and I haven't had to control them. And I think she loves that. She really gets off on that sort of thing. A really, really interesting character that I think was heavily underutilized in this. It was more like her and Quaritch were both the bad guys, which is fine because we know that Quaritch is... I've got really itchy nose. I know that Quaritch is the overarching enemy of the Avatar franchise. But I thought he would take more of a backseat for Varang. The best scene with Varang is probably when they're attacking the Air Clan, the traders. And that fight sequence might be my favorite in the entire film. It's so good. Really strong. I absolutely loved it. The comms are down. They all get Neytiri crashes into the forest. You think that she might be dead, which would have been a crazy thing to happen that early on in the film. It's kind of, I had a moment where I was like, is this court stealing? You saw that earlier in this year, the Austin Butler movie with Zoe Kravitz. Spoiler, Zoe Kravitz dies within the first 20 minutes and was set up as a main character. I think I really like that. Huge impact. The crowd would have in general hated it, right? And I also think probably for the betterment of the 5 films, not good. But I did think she was going to die there, actually. But when Varang says, Mad Max-esque, says to sort of one of her people, we need to take down this Squidward-looking traveling caravan, and he sets himself on fire and suicide bombs. And I was like, wow, what a way to introduce the Ash Clan. I mean, that is a serious 0 to 100. They turn up, we don't really know much about them. And they've got the fire, and they're fighting slightly differently. And her, Ikran, her Banshee, has 4 wings rather than 2 at the back as well. And it's really different look. Very aggressive, the blood red paint. I'm wow, okay, I can get behind these people. They're very cool. And then it's oh yeah, well, my disciples will literally kill themselves for my benefit. And it's, yeah, I was like, wow, okay, so this woman is powerful. And then for her to not really be seen like that again, she becomes very much Quaritch's side piece. Or they become a duo, right? Rather than a side piece, sorry. More of a duo, which I think is a shame. I think they underutilized Varang. I wanted more. I hope we get more. I think we will get more. We don't know what Avatar 4 is called, but I'm sure there'll be some kind of, hint in the next year or so. But Una Chaplin in general, brilliant. So let's talk about the 2 clans. The Air Clan, really neat. By the way, David Thewlis, who plays Palak, who's the guy in charge of the traders, instantly knew it was him. You can tell what's so great about the mocap is that it obviously captures their face brilliantly. And the way he spoke, I was like, oh, it's Harry Potter. It's not Harry Potter, but it's the guy from Harry Potter. And then I was racking my brain. I got a bit distracted during the film first time round. I was like, oh, it's David Thewlis. Really great character. What happened to him? by the way. That's the annoying thing about these films is they are so large. There's so much to contend with. There's a lot of characters that are like, oh, yeah, no, they're just like God now. And it's like, oh, that storyline didn't really kind of get closed off because they introduced him quite heavily. And I would have liked to have seen him fight. Did he die and I just missed it? I don't know. But great addition, I thought. The Air Clan, really cool. Wanted to see more of them, but I guess they are traders. They were like, he said it himself, they're meant to be impartial in this war, and they can't stand on either side because they are very peaceful people. So I kind of understand that they weren't in it too much. But that opening sequence, that battle sequence, probably my favourite from the entire film. Because the sequence at the end is quite similar to Way of Water. I don't think it changed too much. I actually think I prefer battles in different environments. We obviously have had the water a lot. It was nice to have the air battle. I think obviously that's why I loved it so much. And then when they were in the military base, I think a great addition. I want them back in the forest because there's little inclusion of a variety of animals, right? So these are the animals that we got. This is what I've written down. So we've got the Ikran, which is the banshee, the flying things they're all on. Turuk, who returned, of course. That's Jake Sully is Turuk, whatever the name of the leader of the people is, right? Then you have the Elu, which is the dolphin things that they fly on underwater with the fins. Then you get the Skimwing, who one of the greatest shots from Way of Water is where Jake is standing on the back of the Skimwing looking over all of the battleships. God, that's a good film. Then you've got the Tolkun, who I think are a great addition as well. Really loved their development with the Elders, and I think the Elders looked really cool with like the big hoops and the I was gonna say curtains, but they're not curtains. But you know what I mean, like the banisters on them. Really neat looking Elders. Great that the Tolkun apparently never stop growing. Like literally, the day they die is the day they stop growing. So that's cool. Are we going to see like a megalodon Tolkun in the future? Because I always thought Pycan was big, and then you see the Elders, and you're like, oh wow, Pycan is a baby. And then you have the Medusoids, which is the flying jellyfish that the Air Clan are with. And then I couldn't find the name of the like pincer animals. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna have one quick final look. But if anyone knows the name of those like pincer fish that at the end Kiri calls upon them to help fight. What I'm trying to get at here is I wanted more animals. Avatar is so rich with these characters that I think it's important we pay attention to the world because you don't get any of the forest creatures, obviously. I wanted the monkeys to come back. They're cool. You get a look at some like sea otter things, which are super cute. Reminded me of those like penguin fish from Star Wars, whatever they were called. But yeah, really cute animals. And then you kind of only had one, the squids that helped attack sort of the dive team. I was like, oh, Awa, you've sent your animals to help, but you haven't really, because the Ikran helped in the skies, who we've seen before. Skimwing, we saw them being used by the Metkaina clan. Obviously, you have the Tolkun who finally turned around and were like, right, let's go back to our warrior ways. Let's attack people. And then that was kind of it. The Elu, you don't really see fighting. I was like, oh, there's got to be more sea creatures we could have used. So that was a bit of a shame. And I think definitely it affected my overall score. The Ash clan in general, I think were great. I mean, I've spoken about them a little bit, but yeah, Suicide Bombers, how committed they are to Varang and, interestingly, Quaritch. They're very willing to accept their duo in that when Quaritch comes out at the military base to see them and he takes the drink from them, and he says like a cheers and drinks, and they all, when he turns up, they're all like Quaritch, Quaritch, and they bow down to him. And I think that's really interesting how loyal they are, not just to their leader, but whoever she companions with. So I thought that was really neat. But that's kind of like the breakdown of the cast members. We've done, nearly 40 minutes. Wow. We've spoken about some of my favorite lines. I think in general, just the Fire Clan going, "We are the fire." I think it's really cool. I bought you a burger. Shout out Quaritch for that one. And when he also goes, "That was some strong shit." That scene when he was high reminded me of Far Cry. If you've ever played Far Cry 3, you get high in that, and it's kind of same visuals. Really cool. What's next for Avatar? Okay, so Avatar 4 is confirmed, and with that 5 will be confirmed. But 1, 2, and 3 are their own saga. Okay, we were told that by James Cameron. 4 and 5 will be a second saga, and he has ideas for 6 and 7. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure James Cameron will be alive to do 6 and 7, because if we're getting Avatar 4 in 2029, wow, huge time jump. And he's already saying he might not direct that. He's filmed about a third of it, and he's written it, and he knows exactly what he wants it to be, but he might take more of a AD role or even a producer role. There's talks of Wes Ball taking over as director. I don't know how true that is. I don't know whether maybe James Cameron's been training someone while he's been directing these movies that we don't know about. I think that'd be amazing if it's literally like a protege that he's trained over the last 3 movies and is like, right now, it's your turn to shine. Like, here, have the Avatar franchise. I think that'd be nice. But Wes Ball is doing what films? He's doing the Legend of Zelda movie, I think, at the moment. So I think there's mocap and stuff in that. It'd be really interesting to see whether it does change. I think James Cameron would love to focus on other projects, and I've actually spoken about the other projects that he's talking about on my TikTok. There's not, like, pretty recently spoke about some of his other films. He's doing a Ghosts of Hiroshima movie, which is sort of like a true story look at the survivors of the Hiroshima bombings, but he's doing it in 3D, and he's loving this 3D element, which is interesting. He's also doing another film called The Devils, which is based on a book written by a friend of his, and it's a group of like mercenaries, I think, that are brought together to defend Europe from like the underworld or from death characters. I can't remember. But I did a video on it, so you can go watch that, and I explain it well on there, if I do say so myself. What else were we on about? Where does it go from here? Avatar 4, we don't know anything about it, apart from a third of it's been filmed. I do want it to happen. I wish it was a little bit sooner. But what's good is Avatar 5 is then just 2 years after that, because they'll film them back to back like they did with Way of Water and Fire and Ash. They did 18 months of filming. So that's good, and I'm looking forward to the second saga. I do think this film left me with a lot of questions. It answered a lot, but I think my frustration first time around was like, wow, this is still so open-ended. And it was kind of like the zoom out of the planet and then the cut to black. I thought it was maybe going to introduce a new lead character. Like at the end of Avatar and the end of Way of Water, we get Jake's eyes. I thought maybe we'd get Loax or spiders or even Varangs. Like that sort of sense of like, right, that's the next focal point for the next film. Any kind of teaser. But it really was wrapped up as a saga in itself with a lot of questions to sort of like force the studio to be like, right, we've got to make another one here. And I mean, obviously it's going to make like $2 billion. So prediction. It's currently, interestingly, it's opened to $345 million worldwide as of recording. So this is the morning of the 22nd of December, $35 million worldwide. Interestingly, Avatar Way of Water over the same 4-day time period did $435 million. So $90 million more. I've got to be honest, not surprised. You get further into franchises, they often start slower. The second film, I think, was such a cultural event because it had been years and years. I expect it to smash $1 billion. Do I believe in movies to say it'll hit $2 billion? I don't think it will on initial release. I think over the next few years when it gets re-releases and stuff, it will. I'm going to say $1.7 to $1.8 billion. Now, at the end of the month, we look back at all of my box office predictions and the box office in general. So keep an eye out, of course, my normal TikTok on that. And it'll probably be included in my end of year full video in 8 days' time, or about 8 to 10 days' time. Yeah, I think a really strong start. I mean, 345 million. A lot of movies don't even make that in their entire theatrical run. And James Cameron has done it in 4 days. Do not underestimate the power that James Cameron has. He is incredible at what he does. It will, of course, and already has sparked 4. I think it will spark 5. James Cameron will definitely leave after 5 films. The problem is then the studio might push for 6 and 7 because they generate so much cash. But let's see how the next ones do. Let me know your thoughts of Avatar 3 in the comment section. Where does it rank for you in the series? Because for me, 3rd place is Avatar. 2nd place is Fire and Ash. 3rd place is Way of Water. Way of Water is such an incredible film. I think I have it at 5 stars. This one I have at 4.5 and a like and a little heart as a booster. And Avatar 1 I have at 4 stars. So they're all incredible. I'm seeing Avatar 3 for one more time, my 3rd watch next week in 2D. Twice I saw it in 3D. I don't think it adds anything. Now, I've not seen it in 2D, and this was the first 3D movie I've seen in 10 odd years, but genuinely, I'm not sure it's worth I find the glasses a bit distracting, okay? I'm not sure it's worth the sort of like my ADHD brain going like, whoa, you got a frame around your eyes you're not used to. I don't know, because I think 3D is fun when it throws stuff at you. And James Cameron, I'm sorry, because I know he says it's not about that. And there's like 2 scenes where they throw stuff at you. But it's adding more depth and character to the world and making you feel like you're engrossed. Let me watch it in 2D and I'll tell you for sure. I don't know whether 3D is my favorite element to watch films in. Just annoyingly, when it first initially gets released on the biggest screen on iSensor Odeon, it's only in 3D. What else? Yeah, so it's my 2nd favorite Avatar at the moment. It could grow to be my favorite if I can start to learn, sort of put up with the open-ended questions at the end of the film. But unlikely, I think Werewolf is so strong. Where is it in terms of James Cameron movies? Now, I did a video of this on TikTok. Go watch it. It's also on YouTube Shorts, so you can watch it there. But overall, is like a sneak peek. I think I rated it like my 4th favorite James Cameron movie out of the 10 he's done. So I think that wraps us up. Wow, I spoke for about 45 minutes, nearly 50 minutes between the two once I've edited it down. Who knew I could speak for that long by myself about Avatar 3? I hope you enjoyed. That is a very one-topic heavy podcast. Coming up over the next 8 days and into the new year, here's a schedule for you, okay? We're going to be talking the best movies of 2025 for me. We're going to go through my list. I'm actually going to do a TikTok live stream on maybe like the 27th, 28th, 29th, for about an hour where we finish the ranking of all of the 2025 movies I've seen this year, which I think is about 120 new releases. So we've got a whole list to sort of correct and finalize. Then I'll do some TikToks on it. We'll talk about it in a video where we'll also talk a little bit about award season, but we'll keep most of that for January. We're going to talk the worst films of 2025. We're going to do looking forward to 2026 at the end of the year. Going to do a video on that. There's so much to come, and into the new year, you're probably going to be getting at least 2 episodes a week. So one episode will be talking about the news and some recommendations. And then another one will be reviewing the films I've watched that week. So I'll be probably watching 2 or 3 new releases every week for 2026. And we'll talk about them all in a video and then do general movie news as well. If you want short form content of all of that and more, check out my TikTok or my YouTube shorts. Pretty much everything is uploaded both there. TikTok being the main one. Longer form, deeper in stuff, depth stuff here on this channel. Thank you very much. Subscribe, follow, rate the show if you're listening on Spotify, please. I think that's it from me. Merry Christmas. I'll see you soon.